playing off how excited and enthusiastic us Sixers fans are, and the Sixers community really is about this team. It really hasn't been shared amongst a lot of the talking heads in the sports world. Like I know I was listening to Stephen A. Smith, and he was kind of dismissing the Sixers as like the third best team in the East. Joel B can't stay healthy. Harden's not going to perform in the playoffs, like that kind of stuff. So this next question is, which playoff narrative are you most tired of all the ones that are being said about us? So Doc, choke artist, can't win. He has one rings. He should have had way more than one with that Boston team and with the LA teams that he had. Embiid can't stay healthy. Every year there's a new excuse with Embiid, whether it's flu, or knee injury. And then meniscus, yeah. And then Harden not being clutch and not being a playoff performer. So which one of these narratives are you kind of the most tired of as we approach the season when people are writing us off?
I would say Joel's injuries. I mean, even though that's an issue and a concern, he hasn't really had he hasn't had injuries that kept him out for a playoff. Like he's not here. He may have missed some games or he's playing injured. So I would like to see that kind of go away. And I would like to see him, have a clean and healthy season as well.
And how unfair, I mean, as a player, Eric, it puts you guys in such a tough spot because you're damned if you do, damned if you don't, in a way. Because if you don't play, then it's like, oh, great, where is he now? You can't tough through it. But if you play and play injured and your play suffers because of it, yeah, sure, you get the excuses in the beginning, maybe for the first week. People make those excuses for you. Oh, but he's playing on a broken ankle or a broken wrist or torn meniscus. But after a while, people kind of forget that you played with those injuries, and then it just became, oh, he didn't play that well that year.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's really on. It's not all on the player, even though from a perspective, a fan or people watching the game, they put it all on the player. But it's really, if the player puts himself out there as far as trying to play, and he's injured, it's really up to coaching to decide if that's helping or hurting the team. That's really a coach's decision once he plays. So some coaches get, I'm still going to stick with this guy, and some be like, no, I'm pulling back. So it's only really up to the player if he can, if a doctor says you're able to go, but it's to your pain tolerance. That's up to the player to decide. But it's up to the coach to decide how he's playing, how much he's going to play, and how you're going to use him. So players may get the bulk of the criticism, but it's not all on them.
But doesn't that put him in a tough spot because 60% of Embiid is still way better than whoever's going to play,
and that's what most coaches tell them.
But it's still way below what he's capable of. So as a viewer, we're like, that's not Embiid, but it's all
about does that give you the best chance to win? That's what it's truly about. If that 60% gives you the best chance to win, then it may give you the best chance to win, but it still may not be good enough.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
At the end of the day, you tried. You just didn't get it done.
I know, but unfortunately, viewers, fans,
I'm just saying. So 60% in 100. If you lose, it's going to come the same way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. As far as the question you had, it's a good one too, because they get brought up a lot.
It's such a dismissive manner too.
Any single, go on social media, look at any single positive Sixer post, Harden looked great last night. They did this, boom. You'll see these three, man, you can write a clicker on these. They're all over the place on those. I'd love to count which one. Actually, there's a poll. We should do a poll of viewers just to see what is the number one excuse you see. All of them have a level of accuracy though, which is what really stings. They all have a level of accuracy because yes, Doc has had very talented rosters that he hasn't won with. There are excuses and reasons why, and he went over it last year, oddly. Yeah, Harden hasn't performed best when his back's against the wall in the playoffs. It's true. And yes, Embiid has been injured or badly sick almost every single year in the playoffs. I think the most frustrating one, and I think the one that is tied to our team's success, if I can erase one of these, would be what Eric said is Embiid's health. Because if Embiid's fully healthy in the playoffs, then Harden doesn't need to be the guy doing that heroic Harden Houston game. He doesn't need to do that anymore. And if Embiid's healthy, fully healthy, then it brings down the probability of Doc choking away something. Mm-hmm. So I think it all matters about Embiid's health. I think that is the first and foremost thing. It's also the most frustrating because you can't control that. Like, he got injured and it was a freak elbow, or he got really sick because of whatever. It's out of his control. It really is. And it sucks because the other two are avoidable. Mm-hmm. I will say this, though. I think the Harden ones are a little unfair. And I was never a huge Harden fan before he came to Philly. And I was probably one of the people dogging him in Houston saying these things. But you go back to his years in Houston, everyone says, oh, man, they go to this list of all the great players Harden's played with. Who are the two best players he's played with? Not in Houston. I'm not counting OKC because he was a kid in OKC playing six-man role. They didn't know what they were doing over there yet. In Houston, Russ and CP3, okay? Russ, I think we found out over the years, great player, killed it in stats. I don't think his stats always translated to wins and losses. I think he's a stat stuffer. I totally agree, and his stats.
I don't agree with that, but okay.
Okay, we'll get into that in a second. But Russ and we didn't know that Russ needed a certain kind of fit yet. We thought Russ could go with anyone, and I don't think Russ and Harden really fit. And we found that out. They found that out really quickly when they saw that. And then CP3, who coincidentally is also a guy that was there for most of Doc Rivers' choke artist years. So I think it's funny that CP3 sneaks on by a lot of these criticisms when Harden's to blame for all of his choking, and Doc Rivers is blamed for all of his choking. Well, then CP3 deserves 33% of that as well. Then,
I don't. In my circles, Chris hasn't escaped it. I think his time in Phoenix has helped him, but leading up to that point, in my circles that I'm in, he gets it, and at times he gets it more than I even thought he should.
Okay. So in your circles, less point God and less,
No, it was just can't win, can't do it in the playoff. Like and I'm talking about some NBA circles.
Yeah,
not from a fan circle.
Yeah. And I agree with that. Right? If Harden gets it publicly way worse than I think CP3 gets it. Mm-hmm. Which I think is unfair.
Yeah, and I think some of
that was a great roster. They probably would have beat the Warriors.
Some of James getting it, I believe, has to do with maybe him also getting criticized with his lifestyle.
Yep.
I think that has something to do with it. I think people kind of mix it because it's the one thing I've heard is he stalls out at the end of the year in the playoffs.
Yep.
Or it's a conditioning thing, or he's out of shape. So you kind of hear more of the lifestyle off the court things about James than when Chris and then the other guys. So Russ is probably more on the court. Mm-hmm. But I think all three of those guys, it depends on what you're looking for. Because I've said it before, we look at Steph Curry and he passes the eye test all the time. But you go look in the NBA record books or stat book, and Chris Paul has more assists and points, or at least he did the last time I looked. And Russell Westbrook and James Harden has more points, rebounds, and assists than Steph Curry. So it's just, but Steph Curry's really good and looked at as a better player, and he's looked at it, and the team is better.
Yeah, so, also because Curry kind of embodies the new NBA, the jacking up 50-footers and hitting them,
But he does so much more.
No, he does. He does. Like, but
it's winning. His team wins.
Yeah.
if you give James or Russ those championships, they would look at Steph differently.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
They're already trying to look at it differently now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the whole thing that, like it used to be, winning matters, like winning truly do matters. When it comes down to it,
Harden's been a solo act in an era of super teams, though. You're not going to win against that. I don't care how good what one player is. No one's going to be all these super teams every year, right? I mean, that's why even the best player had to get a super team.
It depends on how you look at it. They had a 3-2 lead also.
CP3 got hurt, though, right? So
and then they had a home game.
It became a solo act once CP3
but
got
I'm just
hurt,
saying
though.
it really just so it does, but you can win a game because he's done it before.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
you know what I'm saying?
The solo act
it's different when you talking about win a series, but if it's win a game, it's different. So